they used to reuse needles, by the way. So you know when you
clean them up and stuff.
Yeah, they use the same needle twice, autoclave it twice in use, right? And you know when you use needles more than once, it gets blunt, right? So imagine like the more usage of this needle, the more painful your piercing actually was.
Apparently, gladiators and slaves wore the Prince Albert piercing. Well, it was just basically for them not to have sex without the authorization of the master. I'm like, okay, that's crazy.
It's actually underground communities that actually brought out this whole piercing movement as a form of self-expression and belonging, right? Because, okay, how do I put this? It's back then, piercings used to be illegal. There's an era in time where piercings were very legal because people would have a perception of you, like, you know how now it is, like, oh my God, yeah, this piercing, that means you're kinky type shit. It's also because, like, they also, like, brought it up as a thing. Like, they made it a thing to get.
Hello guys, we're back on episode 6. Welcome back. Today we are talking all things piercings, body modification, where it comes from, indigenous cultural practices, and spiritual. Yeah. Of course, I'm not alone. I'm with Adelaide Lishopi, Adija, and I'm with Ahmed today. They can introduce themselves.
There's no introduction necessary. I mean, like, hi, it's Adija. They should know that by now.
Say hi to the viewers.
Yeah, but hi, guys. My name is Adija, and I am a piercing artist here at Soweto Inc. And today we're talking about a very, very interesting topic. Most of you actually come for these services, which is piercings. And I can't wait to school you guys on some. And hopefully we learn something. Ams?
Hi, guys. Thanks for coming back. Hope you enjoy.
I'm just still camera shy. I you guys see her every day, so suspense. Just enjoy her voice, you know. But anyway, so today we're going to be talking all things piercings.
You know what interests me? Sorry to just, divert you a bit. I got interested in the Prince Albert piercing. Like,
Don't jump.
Anyway, I'm not jumping. We'll talk later about that, and you know what it could do. It's just interesting. But anyway, Adija, take it.
All right. So piercings go back like centuries back, right? There's no exact date that is stated as to when piercings became a thing or when they started and which tribe originated with this and that. This is simply because multiple people all over the world got piercings for different reasons. And let's start first. What is a piercing? A piercing is basically a clean incision or a puncture wound on your body to fit in jewelry, right? Now, nowadays we use needles instead of the piercing gun, but then back then it was painful. It was tedious. Niggas were using some wild shit. Oh shit, I'm not supposed to be cussing, am I? Please edit that out for me.
But you always cuss on all the episodes.
For real?
Yeah.
I need to work on my vocabulary.
Shit to you.
Okay, but yeah, back in the days before people started using needles, they actually used to use sharpened wire. Believe it or not, like they used to use like wires and sharpen them and force them in. Now, guys, remember that this is like way back in like 20th century and all of that. So needles weren't really like a big thing. This is a time where surgeons and doctors didn't even use gloves. You know, this was like before the AIDS epidemic and all of that. So people were constantly like just using homemade tools to get piercings done, right? In Western culture, we do have a godfather or the grandfather of piercing. His name is Jim Ward. This guy is the first piercing artist to open a piercing shop in the United States. He opened the Gauntlet in the 1970s, and it closed later on. I think it was 2004. So basically, Jim also is the reason why we have piercing needles today, by the way. He basically like experimented and used all these things up until he actually got to use.
So what did he start using?
Started off with the sharpened wire. He actually tells his story. There's actually multiple interviews. So he used to sharpen wire, and then what they do, they force it through, make a piercing, a puncture wound there, and then they'd force the jewelry in. So it wasn't like as clean as how we do it nowadays. You know, now we just chop.
The size gauges and stuff.
So they used to use like a very thin wire, and then they'd force the jewelry in so that it can fit that piercing hole, and then they'll have their piercings. Right now, mind you, they also used ice picks. I don't know if you know what an ice pick is, right? Like that little, it's not even little, it's like a long tool that basically picks ice, like breaks ice, like hard ice. So they also used to use that for their piercings, and it was sore. Like just thinking about it, imagining it, seems like a sore experience, you know?
Feels like it.
Yeah, because like, think about it, like right now with needles, piercings are sore. You get me? Now, Akanya, like, they're using a blunt tool. One, it's not as sharp as a needle because needles weren't a thing then. Two, they use pressure, like they're actually forcing this thing through, right? There's also what they had, a needle pusher. So basically, as time went on and they started using and experimenting with needles and stuff, they had a little device called a needle pusher because when you use a lot of force, so sometimes the needle, the back of the needle or the back of the wire would jab into the hand.
Course.
So they had to make a device to counter that.
Damn, that's harsh.
Yeah, that was
like
they did a
it's
lot.
traumatic. Sounds very traumatic.
It does. It does. So where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So they're also using era.
Sounds just crazy.
And sore. If you think needles are painful now, girl or guy, let's be grateful that you're in an era where it's now like a swift thing. Because back then, I'm sure it was like 10 minutes of screaming and all of that.
Hectic. What do you know about these indigenous practices and...
Okay, so I found quite a couple of interesting things actually, and before we even get to the evolution of how it was safe to start piercing, and because there's a whole history, it existed even before it was made popular in the Western society. You know, in certain indigenous tribes, for example, the Mercy tribes from Ethiopia, there was lip stretching. There were the Shamas and the Kibish who used to also stretch their lips. There's some that used to elongate their necks. You know, and they had different tools and different ways of piercing that weren't necessarily even considered piercing or even stretching or a form of body modification in that time. There were certain purposes that they served actually, which I also find interesting. We'll get to the materials they used, but I also found it interesting that each piercing at that time also had a meaning. You know, for some of these tribes, it was more of a beautification and a status thing. It was wealth and attraction. You know, the bigger your lip stretch is, the more you were considered to be divine. It was more about pride and identity. Different patterns on the wood plates and the markings would indicate where you're from, how many cattle you have, how rich you were. Some of these practices even start from childhood, you know, where you have no knowledge of it, but because of the family that you're from, it's more of like a birthright.
Like it's part of the culture, basically.
Yeah, it is part of the culture. And I think also the spiritual element of it, that the fact that they considered these things to be divine and they would ward off evil spirits even with the piercings before it became a thing that was radicalized or became a thing that is seen to be normal. This was something that was sacred, basically. So I found that very interesting.
Interesting. What I figure is that people use like piercing for so many different things because the research broadens. Because what I found was also interesting that men in war they used nipple rings as a sign of honor and strength.
Yes.
You know, I was like, oh, okay, that's very interesting. And then apparently gladiators and slaves wore the Prince Albert piercing. Well, it was just basically for them not to have sex without the authorization of the master. I'm like, okay, that's crazy. It's a
Crazy
bit
you say that
crazy.
because even the lip stretching for most of these Ethiopian tribes was also so that slave owners could find the women unattractive. But it ended up being the total opposite.
Because now it was done for beautification.
Yes. So instead of the instead of the slave masters or the people that were basically auctioning off these slaves finding these women unattractive, they found it more like alluring. Why do they do it? You know, same way that they used to find the body of these African women that they used to enslave as beautiful, they ended up finding that form of modification as a beautiful thing also.
And also, I have something interesting to tell you guys. Did you guys actually know that every single piercing known that we have actually has one, a story, two, a person that made it popular, and three, they actually do have cultural, okay, we're talking about culture, but they actually do have spiritual meanings behind them, right? Some people, right, used to get, which example can I give that's easier for me to explain? Okay, my Ashley, right? So way back in Polynesian culture, they used to actually like pierce their lips so that you speak no evil, right? Some hear no evil depending on where you're getting your piercing done, right? You know how the days is also like a migraine and acupunctural piercing. So actually also said that like sometimes you actually do have or suffer from like hearing problems from it. So back then it was actually like you don't hear evil due to your piercings, right? Your belly piercing, as much as it is a alluring thing, it was actually made very popular by Indian culture. Believe it or not, right?
And the nose, right?
Yeah, and
Because I recently found out that if it's done on the left, it means the flag, the flag situation. I looked at myself, I was like, it's on the left.
Okay, wait, hold on. First of all, a big shout out to the LGBTQIA community because without them, we wouldn't be doing this with our chests, right? It's actually underground communities that actually brought out this whole piercing movement as a form of self-expression and belonging, right? Because, okay, how do I put this? It's back then, piercings used to be illegal. There's an era in time where piercings were very illegal because people would have a perception of you like, you know how
Yeah.
now it is like, oh my God, yeah, this piercing, that means you're kinky type shit. It's also because like they also like brought it up as a thing. Like they made it a thing to get. And when you look into the gauntlet's history, it actually became popularized by the fetish community. This is your BDSM members and all of that, because then some of these piercings are also considered intimate piercings, like your genitals and your Prince Albert, right? Oh, and funny story, actually, not a funny story per se, but then why Prince Albert is called a Prince Albert. This is because Prince Albert actually invented the piercing. So it is said that he had a very
What was the whole idea behind
he had it. So you know how randomly like you'd get like random bonus as a gent or something like that, right? So he had a huge piece, and he needed.
He had a huge what?
Piece.
What piece?
He had a huge
Piece of equipment.
yes.
Huh? For the piercing?
Yes.
No.
We're talking about the Prince Albert here, like why it was.
Where
but
do you get it done, dude?
He had a huge dick.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
He had a very.
Make it clear for the people that are not
I'm
understanding.
trying to be decent here. I know I'm the.
I mean, but it needs to be clear what we're talking about. Firstly, also, some people don't know what Prince Albert piercing is.
Okay.
So we first need to explain that because
Okay.
we're not talking to everybody that
Prince
knows.
Albert. Okay, let me start. A Prince Albert piercing is basically a piercing that is made. There's an incision done at the tip or at the head of a male genitalia, and they put a little ring, not a little ring, but preferably a hoop to hook.
Bar.
No, it's usually done with a hoop.
I saw a bar at some point.
Yeah. Okay. The bar movement
Like
started later.
vertical.
Yeah, the bar movement, like the bar jewelry came later on in the piercing journey because then like he got the piercing basically so that he could keep his piece down. So the hoop was there and they put like a little thread tied to his pants so that it just chills there. That's basically
It's to keep it in position.
yeah, so that it doesn't misbehave.
Attract ladies and stuff.
Yeah, like so they don't have a gray sweatpants situation. You get
Vendors, you should consider this. Prince Albert vendor.
No, it's funny because then this piercing also is related to the beading. I don't know if you know, but like some Southern African cultures actually bead their pieces.
Yeah, the chocolate, what? They call it the lunch bar.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I'm telling you, it's a lunch bar. Like,
Because there's beads there, so it looks like a lunch bar. Yeah, so
man size.
yeah, so it's basically like a cousin of the beading situation, or they are related, they're siblings, right? So not back then it wasn't always about pleasure, because then like the guys literally just need to keep the things proper.
Yeah,
they could,
intact.
so they can go to war,
So who now became silly and tried it out was like, no, it works for sexual pleasures.
He did, actually. He did. So apparently there's a manifesto, right, where he was writing his experiences and all of that. So he wrote that like when there was a time after it healed, he did the things and it was pleasurable. And also, it's also written in the Kama Sutra that genital piercings actually do accentuate pleasure, right? So that's how the whole genitalia piercings thing became a big thing. Also, a big shout out to the BDSM community. They also made that a thing, made it easier for you to get your piercings done, your genitalia, your nipples, etc. Right? I'm forgetting something about this Prince Albert thing.
I think you asked about the lunch bar, but
No. Oh, I was actually stating that they're cousins.
yeah, they are cousins. But now, my question was here: if Prince Albert invented that vertical Prince Albert piercing, who came up with the lunch bar?
Okay, the lunch bar thing is more cultural than it is.
In which culture?
Most Zulus do it actually, and in Ndebele it's Zulus.
Zizurus.
Yeah,
Is it Zulus or Zinzurus?
like Zulus, like Zulu, the Zulu.
Zulu people.
Yeah.
No, I don't know about
Apparently, it's actually huge. It's a thing.
Nah, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know about that. I've never heard of it.
No, like
I grew up with Zulu people. I don't know about the chocolate thingy. I think I only learned about this thing when I started like being in the tattoo industry, knowing.
But even Ndebelers get it. Okay, I don't know how to put it into. So it's not like someone is going to tell you like, "Hey, bro, I got beads in my piece."
Of course,
like,
I get it. But
it's
like,
more like a Prince Albert thing.
Also, it's not hidden information, right? It's not something I wouldn't find out.
It's not something you wouldn't find out growing up. But if it's
especially if it's within, because I grew up with Zulu people, so there's no way I wouldn't have found out if they are doing beads or not.
But go back home and do your research. Even in Durban right now, it is a thing. Like it's a thing.
I think now it's a thing because people. I think it actually is a thing because I hear that it's big in jail. So a lot of people that come from jail, they would have beads and stuff like that. And then obviously they would influence other people to have beads and stuff like that. But the Zulu culture, I'm not sure. But I'm not saying it comes from jail, guys. Please don't shoot me. I don't know. Like it's just based on information that's just there on the internet. So yeah, that's what I know about beads.
They are popular in jail, but they were more of a cultural practice. That's what I'm getting at. Like it was essentially a ritual for married people. Like literally only like your grandma or your granddad and your wife would be there while you're getting your beads done, because it was something that is meant for intimacy only. It wasn't like a popular thing. Even right now, like as much as we hear about it, it's not everyone that would say, yeah, I got beads. Like it's more of an intimate thing. Sometimes think of it as like getting your nipples pierced or your genitalia pierced. It's not something you're going to be telling people like, yeah, I got my dick pierced. Yeah, I got my pussy pierced.
You do tell your friends though.
Your friends.
And that's how it spreads eventually. That he's got a Prince Albert, you must taste it.
To some extent, yes. But then like, as I'm saying, it's not everyone you tell. You get me? Like,
but it would come out eventually.
It would, obviously, because then like people talk, like it's inevitable to say no one would know because like people talk. It's like how also women have their own reviews of how the experiences with beaded people went, or how their experience with people with Prince Alberts went, and all of that. You get. Yeah. So I don't think it's something that like you'd go out and tell people. I don't know, guys. Like if you're capable, or if you do have beads and you're willing to share, just comment down below and tell us like how you got into it, how you ended up doing it, what convinced you to do it, or what like the leading factors for you to getting your beads done. Mind you, this is a safe space. No one is going to judge. Please be kind in the comment section there. We are not here to judge anybody. This is a safe space. We are here to just express ourselves and share some knowledge. Okay, this is a learning platform.
Yeah, no. Do you have something to say?
Yeah, but it's not really related to the beating or genitalia per se. Just from my observation, also in my personal research, speaking to someone who is from Nguni tribe, I've noticed that a lot of Nguni men, most notably Zulu men, especially modern day Zulu men, have ear piercings. I recently even learned stretching of the ears. Yes. Do you know? For me, just being curious, do you know why most people pierce, or why most Zulu men
Stretching their ears.
stretch their ears?
You know, to be honest, I would be lying to you because I do not know much as to why they stretch. But I grew up seeing a lot of Zulu elderly people that are stretched, especially from the Shembe culture. They can correct me. They do a lot of stretching. Those are the people that I grew up seeing with tunnels and stuff. So it's also not like something where I grew up, because it's the modern Makaya. It's not that So where I grew up, it wasn't a lot of this body modification. So if you see it on an elder person, the odds of you asking and finding out about it are zero, because that elderly person probably won't even tell you why or how they did that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but if anybody knows why Zulu people used to stretch, please help us, guys. Put it in the comment section, or if you're willing to join us and tell us how they started stretching and why they stretch, let us know.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting one to touch on, also because it has an actual name in Zulu. If I'm not mistaken, correct my pronunciation if I'm wrong, but it's called ukeka.
Ugu?
Keka.
Ukukeka.
Khekha.
Spell it again.
Ukhekha. Remember, I'm doing my personal research on the side also.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking to someone who has a bit of knowledge on what this could be.
Hey, it's my first time hearing the word, because I mean, hey, remember I'm not Zulu. Do you know?
Yeah, I know that you're not Zulu, but
I mean, it's a new word hearing for the first time.
Yeah, I also thought it was a bit inspirational just to note the fact that even though it was popular in tradition, I feel like there's many people in that region, even today, the modern day men of that area still carry it so much so that when they saw it, they knew it was cool, it was something that they wanted to do, and then they made it part of their identity. Because I'm telling you, when it comes to body mod, I feel like leading number one and not two has to be people who are Zulu in terms of ear stretching, especially. I feel like to a point where they even use the original material that was used, which is wood. I feel like that's something that's really like we need to dig into and see how it actually became popularized from something that was just done with a razor and cutting and having to put the plate there to something that you can start with a small piercing and then continue to stretch it as you go and have a desired stretching. Because I think with all the stretchings that I've learned and all these other piercings that are cultural, what happens with them is that in as much as you start from a young age, different sizes mean different things. It talks about your wealth, how attractive you are, maybe what family you're from, with markings, not necessarily with stretchings, but I know there's markings that you get
markings on the face.
On the face for beautification and further on. So I think it's very like the culture is still alive. You just have to find out where it was simmered down. So I feel like it would be interesting also just for people to delve into that fact, find out for ourselves, share with us also, because it's interesting to see how they kept the fire burning till today.
Got you. Interesting, guys. It's a lot.
Piercings are very interesting, hey? They're very, very interesting.
Random question: did you know that at some point it was illegal to be piercing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did read about something like that. That at some point it was illegal. But why? Like, is it because of the society, how they look at you and stuff?
Yes. Okay. So there's multiple reasons why piercings back then were actually illegal, right? One, because they were also quite popularized by sailors, or people that were labeled as rebellious or morally, yeah, morally compromised or unorthodox, right? Because then these people, they would go all over. Okay, so this is what sailors used to do. They would go all over the world on their voyage and they'd learn all these other different cultures, right? And they'd get certain piercings as part of their culture, like to signify or symbolize, like, this is where I went, this is what I've been through. So with the ears, they'd actually get like hoops to signify that they've been around the world, right? And then they'd get their nipples pierced when they've been at like sea wars, war at sea, or when they are going through some nipple play, fetish play, kinks, and all of that, right? Because then also, don't forget that like as much as piercings are also quite cultural, they were actually like pushed by a kink community because then like if you do know or if you've done your research on BDSM, it's about pain pleasure. It's a give take thing. So those people actually used to do the piercings themselves. You get me? Like you'd be a dom and you'd have a sub, and the whole trust dynamic, power play thing, just that act of piercing does.
So couples pierce each other.
Yeah, it's actually still quite popular right now. If you were to go to like a BDSM club, they do have a piercing room where like your dom could pierce you, or if you're a dom and you're a masochist, your sub could pierce you. You
Do
know,
they have to pierce me?
it's a choice. Think about it this way: it's consent. You know, like not everyone has a thing for pain, and not everyone is like, okay, yeah, today go sharp. You know, it's consensual. It's more of a trust thing. Like, okay, as much as this hurts, I trust you to know when to stop my. You know, that's why they have safe words. That's why they have expectations. They talk about it. You know, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like this BDSM thing actually works way better than like the real relationship thing, because the relationship thing comes with a lot of problems, and the BDSM is just straightforward. But I don't know. That's just my
I'm hella confused about the
opinion.
BS here.
Why? Ask some questions. We help you understand.
No, the only thing that I know right now that you just told me is that they pierce themselves. That's all. I don't know what kind of people they are. Like,
You
more
know,
information in depth.
you don't know about BDSM? Your 50 Shades of Grey type thing?
No, I don't.
Do me so. Okay, so so basically, BDSM stands for bondage, discipline, dominance, submission, sadism, and masochism. Right? Basically, you bond, you discipline, you dominate, you submit, you inflict pain, or you're a sadist. Yes, it is a thing. It is a thing. It's actually a culture. It does exist, and it's very popular, even though it is a underground culture. It is very, very, very popular. It is a thing. Now, I want to explain this and make this very clear. People that belong to this community, as much as you may think that they're traumatized, sometimes it's not trauma. It's just kinks. It's a spot where people just explore and learn new things all the time. You know, so there's nothing wrong with them. They're just people. They just happen to belong to that culture, and that's okay. Acceptance, guys. Remember, acceptance. Because without them, we wouldn't be doing piercings the way we do piercings. They wouldn't be popular. We wouldn't. I don't think we'd even know what nipple piercings are if it weren't for like that culture.
Do you think so too?
Okay, from my research, I wouldn't say piercings wouldn't be popular, but they wouldn't be well known because they brought out piercings to media. So how it started was they were piercing each other in back rooms with sewing kits and heating up the needle and, you know, purely for sexual pleasure because the community is about inflicting pain for pleasure. So it's an exchange of, it's painful pleasure. I enjoy inflicting pain or asserting dominance over you so that I get a bit of, like, it's self-gratification. It's painful, but it's also pleasurable. Yeah.
That's why they say there's a thin line between pain and pleasure.
Yeah, so those people made it acceptable in the West. Then celebrities started doing it. Even for the needle to change to what it is today, they were part of the process because now more people were getting ear piercings. Basically, they didn't make intimate piercings popular. They made piercings in general
Popular.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And we're still talking about why piercings were illegal, right? Besides them being questioned because of how you look morally, it was also because of please don't crucify me. It's literally there on the internet. You can also do your own research. But Christianity. So when the missionaries were also doing their missionary work, they came with the Bible. You know how the Bible also states not pierce or tattoo your body, wara wara. That also became a thing that also watered down cultural beliefs, or cultural aspects of piercings and body mod, right? Simply because, like, to the missionaries, it was what the fuck is this? What are you doing? It's not namad. But they didn't try to understand or learn why this is like that. They just came and they were like, no, stop. It's not cute. We don't want this. So piercings actually globally actually became really, really, really popular when Queen Elizabeth got her crown. I think this was in 1985. Was it 85? When she got coronated, she was 25 years old though. She had piercings. And that's when it became a global symbol. Like, okay, the queen did it. Let's do it.
So it had to be approved by a certain color, basically.
To some extent, you get me? Like, I'm not saying that like it was globally legal, but like if your role model does something and your leader does something that was questionable growing up, and all of a sudden this person in position of power is doing what they
But
say can be done.
sorry to cut you or go back to that, but like I feel like going back to the indigenous cultures practicing it and it fading and it now reappearing as a certain, as
Movement.
certain people practicing it. That's now like a
clear
question
sign.
as to why did the information just disappear in the middle to come as I think you get what I mean, right? I don't want to quote colors
I
black
don't
and
know
white
how to
and
put
stuff.
it in deep. So like think about it this way, right?
Yeah.
Back then I'd say there wasn't room to learn. Like it wasn't like the colonizers came here trying to get to know us. You get me? They just came and they saw what they saw and they were like, okay, ours, mine. I can do this. I can own you. You're my property. Like they forgot completely, or they disregarded completely, like we are our own people. Like we have our own ways of living. And to some extent, yes, they did take away a lot of our history. Some of it completely wiped out, like tattoos. We don't even know for sure our history as Africans, like why you did body mod. And sometimes I actually think of it as like foolish when someone comes in and they have their own perspective of this, and it's narrowed down to religious beliefs. Because as much as I understand that, like, my body's a temple and all of that, but like, did you know that like I have like cultural reasons as to why I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Like why I'm doing this. To you, it's just like I'm ruining my body, because to you, I'm ruining my body. When in actual fact, like you don't even know if like it's cultural, if it's a lifestyle thing, if I'm identifying with a particular group of people and all of that. But
I think, yeah.
Yeah, you had something to say?
I think also like I don't wanna be like a radicalist or an ist, sound like I'm racist or I'm this and I'm that. I feel like the like the most important information, especially with wars and taking over somebody's territory, what usually happens is that the most powerful tool for me, from what my observation is information. If I strip away a piece of information from you, you'll never know that this was something that was accurate. I make it seem bad for you to do that thing because I want to strip away something that was part of your identity. So now you're lost trying to find this and you don't know why you gravitate towards it until someone who does something like the Queen, for example, that's socially acceptable does it. I feel like it was more intentional than anything, if I can say that. You know, it was more of a thing of, if I rip out these pages from your book, you're now lost, essentially. That's why when you get, as a black child these days, in the modern day, after that era of Christianity took over and there was the spreading of the message of Christianity, it became unacceptable to do certain things, but it was something that was intrinsic. It was something that was passed down from generation to generation. I'm talking about some piercings were done by your mother from the time you're 8 to about 13. You knew that by the time you hit puberty, this is what was expected of you. It was something that you were proud of. You know, I'm a woman, I'm coming of age, I can reproduce now, I'm a man. But if they take that part of your identity away, then it becomes easier for you to almost fall for anything, if I can say that. So yeah, I don't feel like it was a mistake that that part of the information was taken away. Yeah. And also, the most powerful tool besides information is the ability to spread the information. Mm-hmm. So for them, it wasn't like piercings weren't popular before, but now even the groups that I'm sorry to say it this way, but even the groups that they appear in or they are made popular by are now groups that are seen to be taboo. Like, I don't feel like it's a mistake that certain piercings were made popular by either people in jail or people from the BDSM community, because people already have a view of them. They're bad people, they're satanic, you know, they're lustful, they gratify themselves. There's certain views that now this thing already has a tainted image before everyone else can get to do it. Until someone is acceptable or as clean or as blue-blooded as Queen Elizabeth comes with ear piercings, then that's when it's like, oh, it's
holy.
Okay. Yeah, it's holy.
Holier than thou.
It's holy. Now I can do it, you know. But I don't think it's a mistake that the information is missing. Because even the way that it was done, I'm talking way before even it came into play in the West, and the way that it was done, it was almost like sacred. You knew that you had to sit down. There's a group of women that are actually chanting around you, you know, certain elements like that. I feel like those are important for people to look at and even go deeper into why that material. Because one thing that stood out about me was before piercings became steel and metals, it was wood, ivory, you know, rocks were being used to sharpen blades that were also being made by hand. So I feel like, yeah, it's not a mistake that the information is missing. We just have to go back and retrace our steps, go down to the lineage, like find why it meant what it meant. Which also leads me to my next question, which is a bit...
Ags.
I found it interesting that in all this research and information, besides beauty, wealth, stature, you being of a certain standard, they know the longer your neck is, the more richer you are, the bigger your plates are, the richer you are in cattle. But in all these things, there seems to be a sexual element. Mm-hmm. It is to please the eye. Even with the beautification processes, the markings, it is to please the eye. Like, I found it weird why piercings have such an attribute of, like, sexual...
Well...
Besides being a form of expression now, what it's become, like, it just makes me wonder, how come piercings, more than tattoos, are actually, like, about sexual pleasure, beauty, like...
But then, okay, let's start. Well, I'm not diving into what you're saying deep, but like, I'm just looking at the general aspect of like a daily person that would come and get a piercing. Most cases, you would like, oh, you know what, if I can get a piercing here, I'll definitely look cute. So you now more like have expectation of how I'm going to look after this piercing. And then after they're having that expectation, you go do it. After you do it, you look fire and the confidence comes up, you know? So there's beautification, there's appeal, the sex appeal. Of course, as a gent, you know, when your ears are pierced, it creates attraction.
That was my next question, actually. But
yeah, it does create attraction because if my eyes are looking at you directly in the face, there's this thing that happens that focuses on on the extra things like in the ears, the jewelry, how it looks. Because if it is awful, I will also notice that there's problems. But if it's beautiful, I'll also notice that these look beautiful. So I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I have an idea as to why piercings are sexualized, because like I have
Besides sexual, just the reason that they exist, I feel, has more to do with it's more to do with your eyes. Like, it's nice on the eyes.
How do
it's
I put
pleasurable.
Yeah, because then it's not something you see every day. You get me? It's not something you're used to. There's something mesmerizing about it. You get me? It's like, okay, you remember that time we had a client that came in and they asked me like, "Oh, wasn't your lip painful, Naman? So what happens when you lip someone?" Like, and I was like, "I don't do those things, right?" It's because like
Cap.
no, it's none of his business if I kiss people or not. You get me?
But I've always been curious. You remember the piercing that you did here?
Mm-hmm.
I saw a girl that had it on. I'm like, but how do you even like kiss a person with these things? Don't they get stuck on people and all those things? Just for context and understanding, because probably that lady was not the only person that asked that question. I also got curious before the episode, so I'm curious, ma'am. Please help us since we have a
Oh
lip
my
piercing.
God. Okay. To answer all your weird questions, even
You see now, it comes to that sexual thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, it hurts for a bit, especially when it's healing. It does hurt for a bit, right? So you can't be like out here kissing or being like kinky or anything like that. But
So do you make the gentle way like, I've got a lip piercing, please don't be harsh.
why would you need to be aware? Pella, you are seeing it already. They are there.
Yeah, but there's those gents that are just like harsh.
No. Why would I be dealing with a harsh
My
person?
sentiments, exactly.
Okay, like how do I put this? Okay, as much as I do belong to a particular community involved with how I look, right?
Yeah.
There is a very strong element of consent involved in it. Like I am not going to be with you just because you are sexually appealing to my eye. No, it's how you treat me, how you take care of me, how you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of that matters. I'm not going to be intimate with someone that's about me. I hate one-sided pleasure. It's like the worst of worsts. And it's like, you wasted my fucking time. Pardon my French. But you wasted my damn time and you took more than you gave back. The community I belong to, it's a give and take. You gave me like, it's literally, you take what I give and I take what you give. You get me? It's just simple. They're going to be asking if I go with handcuffs and shit now. But no, okay. I don't walk around with kinky tools, guys. No, none of that. But I didn't get my piercing. Surprisingly, I actually didn't get my piercings for sexual reasons. Believe it or not.
What was it about?
Really,
because now you've ran from Amir's question, but what was your reason about?
It was really more for spiritual reasons, actually, because I did put in a lot of research into the type of piercings I get and why I wanted to get them. Like my nose, except for my nose piercings, like I knew, like, okay, if I got one on my left or on my right, I'd identify as this. But
it said something, sorry to cut you, it said something about the nose. Maybe if you do it on the other side, it has to do with birth. Am I right? Especially in the Indian culture.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
But okay, so how do I put this? Like the community I belong to, right? They had a guide. It's actually a pamphlet written by Jim Ward's mentor, Doug Malloy. It's called The Adventures of a Piercing Freak. So it's based off of experience, off of the multiple piercings he got, the cultures he was in, and the groups he belonged to, like the biker community, the gay club, and all of that, right? So he basically gave off a list of like piercings, how they were done, and all of that. So I was back to me. I got my piercings for spiritual reasons, because there were things I wanted to work on, like my toxic defense mechanism. I kept a lot when I feel like I'm in a corner. So I got my Say No Evil to actually like remind me, like, okay, I got my Ashley and my Medusa to actually remind me, like, So now there's a thing, like every time I'm about to cap, like I actually like bite on my piercings. So it's
I'll pay
weird.
attention.
Yeah, like it's a thing. Like it's my giveaway now. Like it's my gift because like you know how when some people do things like there's a gift to it. Yeah, same thing. So I got my piercings because I knew like they'd influence this particular aspect of my subconscious mind because of the decision I'm making, you know. But it wasn't. I didn't get my oral piercings because I was like, let me get this and like because I can guess they could see how
Oral,
they
you mean nipple?
yeah, like okay, my nipple piercings, I got them simply because like I've always liked nipple piercings. I've had them before and they fucked up my other boobie, you know, and I took them off and I didn't like how it looked. And then I waited a couple of years, got them again, you know, and like it's not like I'm 100% happy with them because the other one is skew, you know.
Sorry.
But it's okay.
Piercing artist.
The piercing artist that did my nipple piercings, guys, I was sue him, but it's fine, you know. But like, I'd say my nipple piercings, I actually got them more to like belong to my group, you know, because like everything else was just more spiritual based, you know. But
And then this one?
my septum, my septum, I got it because I love food. I love food too much, right? So a septum piercing is a smelly piercing. It smells bad, and I used to have this bad habit of being able to smell food from very very far away, and I'd get hungry, like some like just weird gluttonous behavior. So I got my septum to actually like so that it can ruin the smell of food for me from time to time, so that I don't overeat. Because one thing about me, honestly, I eat. And so I
Do you
eat.
know this?
I don't know about that, but I know that the septum piercing was performed by Aztecs. That's the first time it was discovered.
For what were the reasons?
There's no
Especially the septum.
There's no specific reasons, but from what I understand about the Aztec culture, it's really more to do with like, how can I say this? Connecting with Astra? What is it called?
Astral planes.
Not astral planes, but it would have to be more of a spiritual element to it. There was something spiritual that they were doing, but that was the first notable person that ever had a septum piercing was an Aztec. They used to perform it, stretch it, whatever means that they used to do it. That's when I first discovered it. There's nothing much on the septum piercing, but I've also heard things about the septum piercing being a form of expression and rebellion for sexually abused people.
Yes, it actually is.
I know. Okay, I saw that apparently they call it the bull ring, of which is associated to
Cows, because cows usually have.
Yeah.
That's why. Okay, a lot of people, most of the time, especially in this here country, right? What
First, I want that point. Yeah,
Okay.
I want to hear it.
Okay.
You were explaining it.
Yeah, so it's considered a bull ring or a bull piercing because like a lot of people used to pierce the bulls here, like on the septum, right? And it's actually like quite kind of funny because I'm like piercing the bull here actually like came way after septum piercings are actually practiced on people before they were practiced on cows. And it was also a thing of the type of cow you're piercing. You know, like if it always had to be a bull, never a cow, an actual feminine cow. This is simply because like you're giving it, what's the word I'm looking for? Not endurance, a synonym for endurance, like where you're building up a pain tolerance.
Giving it power.
Yeah, because then like it was believed like the bigger and the healthier the bull, the bigger the ring. Sorry. It was believed the bigger the cow, the bigger the ring, to signify like its wealth and it's being taken care of. It's like basically like ear stretching. They used to stretch out their cows to signify their wealth.
So what does it have to do with abuse now?
Okay, so this one is a tricky way to explain it, right? I'm not 100% sure of the actual story basis of it, but the first woman who came out with a septum piercing actually stated that like they used to bust their load all over her face.
Bust what?
Their load all over her face.
What load?
Like when they sexually abused her and their one-sided pleasure, they finish off on her face.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And she said like it made her feel disgusting and it smelled really, really, really bad. Right. So when they were back in the room with the other girls, they figured like, okay, let's do something that will ruin it for them, and they started off with their septum ring. So the septum ring, it does smell bad and all of that, but then it threw off their abusers because of like human trafficking. And actually, even from way back, some cultures, women got or modified their bodies to actually prevent themselves from being kidnapped and all of that. It's like the community, it's like nowadays, like I actually, background story, I actually started getting my tattoos and my piercings because like I had a deep phobia and paranoia of being kidnapped. And I heard like, okay, in the human trafficking industry, they don't want people with piercings and tattoos because then it's less appealing, you know? And I was like, okay, shit, let me do that
Easy
because
to
then,
But they
identify.
can
yeah,
take him out though.
No, it's easy to identify. I mean, I can take out your piercings, but
your
Tattoos is
tattoos,
Yeah.
supposed
they're
to, yeah.
there forever, So I was like, okay, let me do that so that this type of shit doesn't happen to me. And when I did my research, I was like, oh shit, this is actually like something that goes way back. That's actually quite interesting. Because then there's also the nose plug tribe in India. It's a bunch of ladies that basically stretch out their noses and
Yeah,
get
so
face piercings. They actually did that so that they don't get kidnapped because the men in the neighboring villages used to kidnap the women because the women were believed to be some of the most beautiful women around.
but I think later became more about beautification.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why does it start like a practice or spiritual practice or cultural practice and then
I
end
don't know.
up
I'd say the beautification aspect of it is like the cherry on top. Like you do something, you're not really expecting it to look good. Because then, like the first time you do it, it's like taboo. Like, what the hell did you do to your face? Or what's that now? And then later, as people start adjusting to you and your look and getting used to it, they're like, oh, but it actually kind of suits you. Like, you actually look good. Like that. I think that's how the whole beauty thing, the
But it's always
beautification
been
thing
a
became.
theme.
No, I mean, I understand it has always been a theme, and that is what it is. But what I'm saying is, I think like catching the eye of it being like identified or belonging into the whole, oh, that's actually quite beautiful thing, took time. It's like how you get a piercing today, like you're not used to it. It's gonna take some time for you to get used to it. And they're like, oh, but it's actually not that bad, you know? I don't think it was a thing, like a must get thing so that you can be beautiful. Like back then it was a rite of passage, like when you're entering your adulthood, your puberty, your adolescence, when you're going to war, I don't think it was a let me scar you up so that you look good. And when you come back from that war, wow. I don't think it was a thing like that. I think it had more meaning besides it being beautiful. I think like the beautiful aspect of it came with adjusting to this new thing. As much as it is beautiful, like I don't think it was beautiful
I
from the onset.
I totally get you, but I
Can I
still
try?
pardon?
Can I try?
Yeah.
I feel like for some of these tribes, it was art mimicking life. Is that how you say is that the saying? Like art mimics life. So, for example, they would find different things that were beautiful in nature, in the environment that they were in, and that would be seen to be the highest form of beauty, or it was sacred, or, for example, certain birds. So they wanted to almost mimic that art and live that art. Maybe that bird only there's an eloquence to it, the way it eats, the way it does it. So there was certain elements in their natural habitat that they wanted to mimic and see as the final form of, oh, I'm whole now, or there's something that I can imitate that is also artistic, but it can be me imitating that thing and making it beautiful, because this is a thing that is seen to be sanctified. It's something that is seen to be sacred. So they took whatever elements of them thinking that something else was beautiful and turned it into an actual life form, like art walking, sort of.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just my opinion. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, no, interesting.
Very, very interesting. Okay, now there is something I really, really want to talk about and actually like help our clients like digest and stuff, right? The difference between an irritation, a keloid, and an infection. This is the last 10 minutes of our episode. We are going to have a part 2 of the piercing episode. If you have questions, comment down below. If you have something to share or teach us, comment down below, right? But then within these last 10 minutes, I would like to give you guys a few tips and tricks and identifying factors for your piercing aftercare, right? So we usually have clients that come in like, oh my God, I have a keloid, I have an infection and all of that, right? And it's like, what signs and symptoms of an infection, of a keloid, or of a piercing bump, an irritation bump / your piercing bump, right? That is very normal. It is part of the healing process, right? And a lot of people, there's actually a story I was watching earlier on today about like the myth of how the whole piercing bump thing started as like being identified as an infection. So someone got a piercing. I think it was a flat, right? And they used the wrong type of jewelry. It wasn't like stainless steel or anything. So it rusted in their ear, and they had to get their ear cut off because the bacteria had spread a lot, and that was the first piercing infection. Right? Mind you, infections are basically microorganisms that go into your piercings, and it could be bacteria, a virus, or a fungi that goes into the piercing. Remember, it is an open wound for some time, and your body reacts to that, right? That is what an infection is. Usually, it's accompanied by swelling, a change in discoloration, a funky smell. And no, it doesn't smell like your septum. It smells way worse than your septum. Yeah. And an irritation bump or your small nose bumps or on your helix, those are very treatable, right? That's basically tissue or your body trying to regenerate and heal and adjust to that new foreign material there. Now, piercing bumps or irritations do occur at different times in your piercing journey, sometimes even after you've healed. Like just randomly, like it's not painful or anything, but there's this little guy there out of nowhere. That is very normal. Remember, it is something new. Your body's getting used to it. And they are very treatable.
Okay. Right. Is that all that you wanted to share with your clients?
Yes, because then sometimes it's like some clients will call and be like, oh my gosh, I think I have an infection. And then like as a piercing artist, you're like, huh? An infection? A what? What's going on? And then when they describe it or send pictures, you're like, oh, it's actually like this and that and that and that. It's not that.
Explain in depth in terms of cleaning also.
I think time's up, but okay. Yo, Batu, huh?
Before we get into like the closing, I just had a few questions also.
Yeah.
To pose to you guys, to pose to the masses at home. What's up, fam? Like, how do you the way the piercing movement is moving today? What are your projections for it? Do you see it moving further into? Do you see it be more acceptable? Do you think that it's radical? Like people are just doing crazy things now, or do you think there's a slow like acceptance of it? Are people starting to get open to the idea of it as a form of expression, like the way it's being used today?
Well, what I think is because compared to when I just understood all these things, that's from because where I come from, these things are not there. Maybe just like after matric university. Piercings that I would see that were common is just your lobes. That's all I knew. Nose was a bit extra, but that all changed as time goes because back then when we started the brand, I think it was when 2020, around 2012, 2014. It was there, but it was like, where do I get it? Where can I get it done? There was corners, of course. Corners were still there. They've always been there.
They're
They've
always
never
going
changed.
to be there.
But now people started understanding the hygiene behind the whole thing. That's why now, obviously, they find where can I do this beside going to the corner where taxi rank and then they, do whatever. So it kind of evolved from my knowledge and watch. It really evolved and changed. But I would also say is that it's the environment I was exposed to. It might have been bigger in other environments. I want to correct that. What I was also exposed to. So it kind of very like grew, and there was a lot of people that were interested in especially tattoos, piercings. Piercings are just growing amongst a lot of teenagers, people that are going to our age and stuff like that. They love piercing. So if it's that kind of age group that is very interested, meaning it's something that's still gonna go forward. It's something that's still gonna go bigger because it's that generation, and there's the generation that follows them, of which they're gonna influence that generation, of which also we're the generation that influenced. You get what I'm saying? So I don't, to get to your question, I don't see it stopping anytime soon. I don't see it declining. I see it going forward because it's more like the information has been unleashed. We now understand. We know now. No, not everyone understand what piercing's about and stuff like that, but like we're more exposed. So it is definitely going to grow because I would also recommend, and I'm okay with my daughter having piercings, meaning she will be okay with her daughter or her son having piercings type of thing. You get what I'm saying?
I want to add all the doctors. Please comment down below. I need a doctor to interview because you guys have the biggest beef with piercings. Not to be ignorant, but I just want to know, like,
Oh,
what...
doctors have beef with piercings?
Yeah, they do. Okay, wait. You guys need to excuse me.
Wow.
What? I tried holding it in.
My word.
What is he doing?
She's going to pee, imagine,
Oh,
mid-show.
it's a pee break. I know you can pee. Anyway, what was your...
I've been seeing a lot of, especially when people come in and they're related to doctors, there's a lot of apprehension, but I feel like it's more misinformation, if we put our heads together, because if they thought of us as a certain form of doctors as well, this is an art, this is a math.
We are doctors because we are working on skin and we are cutting and opening
and
skin.
opening wounds.
Yes.
So I feel like I would really love to have a doctor or a medical practitioner here so that they can actually tell us what the scientific facts are besides what we know. So we put our heads together and find the safest way, because instead of one of your family members says, oh no, he told me that just recently one of our clients' significant other is a doctor, and he said to her that be careful on how you get it. There's infections, there's this and this and that. But before you get to infections, as a piercing professional, you know that there are signs. Infections is more of a you thing. Are you cleaning it? Are you making sure that there's no gunk in it? Are you making sure that you're changing after a certain amount of time, are you reacting to this thing? There's signs that will lead to you seeing that there's a problem with it, instead of just being like, hey, just watch out for that thing. It's unsafe. There are safe measures to do it. So if we put our heads together and the doctors could just accept a decision.
Yeah. But now, also, the question is, these doctors that have a problem, or let's say a problem, they have beef with piercings. Let me put it in a good way. They have beef with piercings. The doctors that have beef with piercings, which age group are we looking at is the question. Because remember, if it's the old age group that was part of the stigma era, then we are going to have the same problem. But if it's an age group like millennials, or you call them millennials, right?
No, no.
What is
right
it?
Now it's Gen Y and Gen Z. Millennials are Gen Y. It's Gen Z.
That exactly that. Those guys, if we can have doctors that are in that age, I think they have something totally different to say.
I agree, but a large number of them still very much have beef with piercing.
But do you guys actually understand why they beef with piercings? I actually do.
What's your understanding?
Not all the way. Okay. So, how do I put this without being crucified or anything? But basically, they understand the human body or the human anatomy, especially because they have different specializations and what they specialize in within the human anatomy, right? So they do have some type, an extensive certain knowledge on how the body heals. Because I don't know if you know this, but not every doctor would go under the knife go for surgery or anything like that, because they already know this and that and that and that is going to happen to my body, you know. It's like how some doctors actually don't like certain piercings simply because of they know, like, okay, as much as this is like a piercing bump and I can heal it, this means that my body's reacting to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chemically within the body already. So they actually, and I feel like they understand more of the healing process and what it does and the long-term effects of what piercings do to your body more than we do. Not that like we don't understand, like we do know what happens to your body, but that like I think there's just a hidden chapter of this human anatomy thing that they know and they ain't trying to tell us.
Okay.
You know?
One, wouldn't you consider it fear mongering? Two, wouldn't it be better, like I was saying, wouldn't it be better to put our heads together? Because we've clearly found that there's safe ways to do this, and people have been doing it for generations. So isn't it better that we have, that's what I'm saying, isn't it better that they also advise us if we are going to continue piercing, you know? And if we are going to do, it would be better to do it this way, it would be better to do that, like an actual conversation, a meeting of the sciences of some sort.
But
You understand?
don't
Instead
you
of
think that's
totally
what's
warding-
currently happening anyway? Because then think about it this way: we do have doctors that come here
And
get-
pierce,
to
I
get
was
their
about to
piercings
get
done.
to that.
You know,
Why aren't they saying, no, like, this is not good for myself as a doctor because I know 1, 2, and 3. Why are they getting pierced?
I actually I have an experience, an interesting experience with one of the doctors that came. That was a client of ours. Like, she's actually a return client. She's constantly here for her piercings. So the first time I did her piercing, we were at the old spot, right? And she's like, "Oh, so this is." She's basically like, "Oh, so this is what you guys use. This is what you guys do. Okay. Let me see the type of needle you guys use." Like, she was actually more of a, like, I learned more from her and vice versa, right? So she asked me what type of needles we use. I showed her the cannula. She's like, "Okay, no, this is a good needle," da, 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 right? And then she actually like gave me advice. You know, the new age disposable, the threaded needles. She actually gave me advice. She's like, the threaded needles actually work way better with piercings, unlike these needles, because it doesn't. You know how with our needles, like the jewelry, there's that little bump. You can actually feel the jewelry going in. With the threaded jewelry, with the threaded needles, you don't. It's literally just gauged to size. So it's like,
100%. Yeah.
okay. So she was
Yeah.
actually like telling me like, okay, so, and then I got to explain. I was like, if you do get bumps, I personally use tea tree oil. She's like, girl, tea tree oil, not tea tree oil. You'd rather actually just make sure your saline solution is warmer and soak for longer. And I was like, oh shit, for real, you know? So like she broke me off of something to learn, and I got to teach her something also. Because then like she was just telling me, like, she's a radiologist. And so she works with a lot of surgeons. So she'd see my clamps and all of it. She's like, oh, interesting, you actually have these, you know, and she was actually calling it by like the surgical term. And I was like, huh? You know, looking like a fool, because I'm like, you know, we have like a different name for our tools here. It's not like we use the same terminology for our tools, even though they're similar, you know?
So why do you think she's doing piercings then if the large group
she actually-
thinks it's not good?
Okay, she told me like she's doing piercings because like she actually likes piercing. She's actually into the piercing culture and all of that. It just sucks that like every time when she's at work, they actually do have to put in retainers because it's steel, you know, hygiene reasons. The same way, like if you had piercings, you do have to take them off before you go in for your MRI or anything. So she actually like she's
I think
actually
that's why
into
they
the
hated
culture.
the MRI scans and all of that.
Yeah, probably, but from my observations, let me not say from the, obviously I've also dealt with the clients that are doctors, but just from general observation, most of them would rather, like, them being aware of the danger, kind of they try and ward off people around them to like, don't get piercings. And mostly, to be honest, even the women that do it, there's more doctors that are male getting tattoos than piercings. And even the male doctors that their significant others get piercings, from my observation, that's what I'm saying, from people that just come in and what I've seen, they ward off the people. And I was saying this because, like Adelaide is saying, they know more about the anatomy. So I would really be interested in having a doctor breaking down the anatomy and putting our heads together, as in, like Adelaide is saying, putting each other on game, saying, hey, you know, maybe you guys should look into this alternative steel. Because I feel like there's a lot of backlash from the medical community. I'm not saying all of them, but generally every time a client, or most times when a client gets a piercing and they come back with an infection or a rejection or something, it's always like, but
The
why did you,
doctor,
why
yeah.
did you pierce in the first place?
Yeah, and
Did you do
then-
your research?
yeah.
You know, it's not a nice feeling when you get there and it's like, okay, now I'm being condemned more than being educated. That's why I say there's a lot of misinformation. And I would really like, doctors, comment down below. I have a few
But
questions.
you know what? Adding to that, I think if we do get doctors, I have a strong feeling about the age gap, the generation
We can get
gap.
different doctors.
Yes, we definitely. I can tell you now, they have different things to say. Both of those generations about piercings and body modification at large.
I just think it's an
If
interesting
you're
view.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out. But if you're a doctor and you're interested in being a part of our episode, or you'd like to share and school us some, comment down below or hit us up. We are always looking for someone to have on the podcast so we can learn.
Yo, guys, this was a very lengthy one. I think we deserve like a part 2.
Yeah.
Because
we've been
I
talking
don't
about
think we
tattoos all
covered
the time.
everything. There's too much to cover. But we've tried to cover what we can. And guys, disclaimer, this is based off of our research. Please don't, fight us. If there's information that we put out that you know better, please educate us. Tell us what that information is. So we'd like to thank everyone that watches our show and consistently watch our shows. And we are sending love to everyone. And we are at the end of the episode, right?
Don't forget to share your story. We are still open for my type of therapy. So if you do have a story to share regarding your tattoo journey or your piercing journey, and you'd like to share it with us and our fellow family members out there, kindly send your email to Mzansi Tattoo Stories at SowetoInc.com.
No.
What? It's not.
You always get the email wrong. What's the email, Amma?
MTS
Look at this guy.
Yeah,
You don't even know it.
Yeah.
What?
MTS podcast at SowetoInc.com.
Okay.
There we go.
I just said it in full. Okay. This guy.
That's the address.
Oksala, I got it right. I just did it long. Anyway, another take. You edit that out for me. But anyway, if you are
He
interested,
never does. Anyway, continue.
you better. This time you better. Okay. But if you're interested in sending your story, email.
If you're interested in sharing your story, email
I just want the email.
podcast.
MTS. Okay.
Alternatively, please WhatsApp us, guys, on
Yeah.
our WhatsApp line. You can WhatsApp us your stories to make it easier. We have 2 numbers. SA number, it is 061 077 4483.
Hinta tesarepe.
Eh?
Don't
let
rap.
me repeat that.
Hey.
Eish, I'm a good rapper, right?
You
I drop
don't have bars.
I feel like queens in this fish. All right, the SA number is 061 077 4483. Botswana number is
740.
plus 267. Hey, this plus 267 74 062257. That's the number, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the love, guys.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share.
Till next time. Love you. Bye.
Love you, loads.